Welcome back to another edition of Profile.
I knew that was about to happen.
We're still going. We're letting this go. I was trying to bite my tongue. We got Lido 5, Ross in studio, Chris, Chaz join us virtually. Let's good to see you guys. First off, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and Boot Crew Media. Lido, let's get right in. First off, you sprained your ankle. When did you sprain your ankle today? Happened? Yesterday.
Yeah. They tried to take me out like Jaja did Kawhi back in his hay.
Speaking of let's just get who's your main trade target moving forward off season?
Fuck. Oh man.
What a wild way to start.
I know, like
I've lost all my train of thought.
Jesus Christ, he ain't even like we get a layup. We get a layup.
He ain't even warm it up. Let's get right to it.
Just getting there. Just kidding. Keep going. Yo.
Go ahead, bro.
It's a disaster.
Oh, this is hilarious.
Kevon Looney.
Really?
This motherfucker that had. I'm sorry, Lala. Dang. Started off. Jesus. This dude done had, like, I want to say 5 games in the series with 20 rebounds. Like,
that is wild,
bro. Can we please get somebody who will just get on this team and like just play their role?
He's an interesting guy before you go, because he looks uncoordinated a little bit. And he doesn't play that much, and somehow he still does a pretty damn good job, like switching on to people. Like he somehow makes it work.
Wait, Ross, I don't know if you know this, but he's KD light, ain't that right, Chris?
All
right, I'm sorry.
We're gonna talk about a guy like Kevon Looney, but will this team use him in the correct fashion? that still remains to be unsolved.
Yeah. And listen, he's also the 39th highest paid center in the NBA.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. Somebody needs, we need to go towards a center that, is low maintenance, right? Can rebound, can screen. I think he has a really high basketball IQ. He plays his role. He can finish. He can switch, can play off. But again,
what he can do?
He can switch.
No, before that.
Oh man, I don't even know what I said.
All right, cool. You say he could finish at the rim, but no, like seriously, I think that like as far as like moving on from JV, right? Like getting a dude who's a good interior passer, who's like super low maintenance, like he don't even look for his shot, but will get 11 points and have 22 rebounds. Like Haddistill was playing great D on Sabonis. I look forward to him playing. I look forward to that next series because I want to see the defense that he plays on AD. I'm sure he'll play them well. Like I think that, like I think Chad said this a pot ago. Like you get a low value guy who's going to overperform,
and he plays a lot. I think he's like maybe top.
Y'all brought last year he played every game. I think he's like one of the few dudes that him and he might have played every game this year too. Yeah. Like I remember seeing that.
I don't know if it was Chaz or Lido. We'll get Chris in here, but he mentioned Alex Len. He's actually a free agent coming up. But Chris, who would you want to target here? Who's your trade target here in the offseason?
I mean, I think I'm going around about the route that Five and Lido was talking about, and just I think they got to figure out the center position. So there's a bunch of different routes you can go. I've seen Jared Allen being named as mentioned. Miles Turner is always in the discussion, but I mean, it can be a low usage guy. It can be someone that we're not thinking about. It could be, I remember Isaiah Hartenstein was a guy last year who was, he went from flying under the radar to being overrated. And once it came down to actually making a move around free agency time, I think a guy, they just have to figure out that position and make it simple enough to where it's not going to complicate. Like we can pencil this individual in barring, a crisis at hand or the individual just really playing down to its talent level. We can pencil that individual and make it easier for the people that's pulling the strings in regards to the rotations. But you figure the center position was one of the bigger, I think, issues when it came to this team, for better or for worse. They got to figure that out. And I think it's a bunch of different avenues that you can go, moving forward.
Do y'all think John Collins is going to be a target? We'll go Ross and Chaz. Like, do you actually think, because I know we talked about, he's not your typical center, but I feel like, we talked about this in the trade deadline. Do you think he's an actual target, and does he make sense for the team? Because I keep seeing his name, but I still don't see a fit personally.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I know there's kind of an argument there, right? That you're just trying to bring in talent, right? You're just trying to upgrade the talent level of the roster. And fair, like that's a reasonable argument if you want to have it. I don't think he's a fit at center. And I don't know that he solves like any of the issues we have at the center position either. So the short answer to your question for me is no. I don't I hope he's not, because he's also a little more costly, like in terms of probably the only thing I think of value in terms of bringing him in would be the fact that he becomes a trade asset at the deadline, like a useful salary to move.
Yeah. Chaz.
I would target Bobby Portis and Doug McDermott. I would round out that center position with guys like Thomas Bryant. Maybe you bring Carlo over. I believe in doing center by committee because I don't think it's a real useful position necessarily, and a prioritized position with this coaching staff. And I think it's just not a position you invest heavily into in 2023, 24, and beyond. I think with Thomas Bryant, you got a guy who can shoot, give you a little rebound, and I'm not necessarily worried about defense. I'm not even necessarily worried about rebounding, because even if Thomas Bryant was like a Dennis Rodman type, one guy rebounding isn't going to help you. Like, the wings have to commit to rebounding at this point. It's too many tall 6'7", 6'8" guys on the floor for the wings to be so poor at rebounding. So I would just get I would focus on, a cheap guy, 11, 13 million with Bobby Portis, get a shooter and Doug McDermott. I think both of those guys would be great for the locker room, especially Bobby Portis. Gives you insurance for Larry Nance, because, we all know Larry's going to run into that inevitable wall and be out for some time. And a guy like Thomas Bryant, he's already comfortable with not playing. If he doesn't close games, I don't think he'll be an issue. And I think you're looking at maybe about $4 to $5 million if you make those initial moves with Bobby Portis and Doug McDermott. I think you'll be you'll have the tax mid-level exception. It's about $5 million. I think that'd be perfect for Thomas Bryant.
So y'all are mentioning like center's not really a big priority, right? But you got to have somebody. Billy Hernan-Gomez, 5. I mean, I know he had just said that whole. I know you're rolling your eyes, but you literally, Lito, what did you just say? Looney's what, the 39th highest paid?
Yeah.
Y'all talking about cheap contracts. He has a club option for $2 million. Is he even close to being an option, or we're just moving on?
I think for both parties, they're probably going to move on. I don't see them bringing Willie back. I don't. Unless there was a real opportunity to get Luka. I know that sounds crazy, but if there was a real opportunity to get Luka Doncic on the Pelicans, I think that's the only way you bring Willie Hernan-Gomez back.
That's fair.
I think I was just gonna add to Chaz's point real quick. Low value center who is helpful on the boards, decent defender, gets a decent amount of assists for his position. Mason Plumlee's a free agent also. I was looking at him actually throughout the season to be a trade target. Like, I feel like you could have literally got him for nothing, which the Clippers actually did getting him for nothing. And you look at a guy who turned his free throw percentage from 40% to 70%, like, on the back end of the season. I feel like I don't know why you wouldn't take a look at him.
If we're talking about centers, the one guy that's sort of popped in my head a handful of times and certainly has a contract that would make a lot of sense is Wendell Carter. And Orlando kind of is sitting out there as a team that I don't know what the hell they're going to do. That, they didn't make the playoffs again, but I think that, they definitely improved and they've got a lot of space. The reason we'd want him, I think, is probably the reason he's tough to get, is just because he's kind of in that. I think he's got probably 3 years and like 31 million left. So his contract is great. I think he fits with what we do a lot better than some of the other guys. And he's still at the age that I think would be interesting with our quote unquote core. But that would be one from a trade perspective that I would be interested in.
So we talk about that. Chris and Chaz, what would it take to get somebody like Wendell Carter? Because we talk about sooner or later, we have all these draft picks. When is it time to get off of them? Because now you're starting to see, Chris, before we got on, we want to talk about, teams that have lost in the playoffs. Bucks again, or not again, but they lose in the first round. Are they a team now with those picks? Is that starting to become more valuable, and can now Griff package up Lakers picks and Milwaukee picks to move in order to get someone like a Wendell Carter Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a situation where you feel like Wendell Carter is your starting center, then if you're committed to that idea, then I mean, it's not going to cost you a boatload. I mean, I wouldn't consider Wendell Carter as someone who is locked and entrenched as a part of the Orlando Magic's future. So if that's the case, I mean, could a second round or 2 seconds end up making it happen? Sure. I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think I would assume that he would be very cheap at this point, as he's gearing up to figure out what his second contract is going. He's playing to figure out what his second contract is going to be like. It's been some inconsistency. It's been some injuries. Orlando was all over the place with the talents that they were putting out there. So, but I mean, whether the question is Wendell Carter or whether it's a Plumlee or whether we're talking about Brook Lopez, Miles Turner, whatever the case may be, and I think we're learning, or we should already know the difference in between what it takes to win regular season games and what it takes, how that translates to winning actual playoff series. It doesn't matter. If you see someone that you like, and you see someone that can be a big part in regards to your future, helping you win games, helping you possibly win playoff series, you go get them. And you worry about the backlash and the results later. And I think that's what this team should focus on.
To piggyback off that, I think the team should probably understand like what its focus is going to be, right? What style they're going to play.
What do you think their focus should be?
Like that number one, or outside of like getting people healthy, but that is determining what their style is, because you have players. Yeah, okay, like Ross. I think Ross alluded to, getting a John Collins is just all right, adding more talent, right? They have talent. Now, what they do with the talent is the problem. It's not necessarily accumulation of talent. No, it's accumulation of the right talent and the right people to do exactly what you want to do on the court. They don't have that yet. They don't have a style. When you watch Sacramento play today versus Steph and the Warriors, it was two styles being played, and they were trying to outmatch each other. But Sacramento has played that way all season. The Warriors have played that way for the last almost decade. So that's what the Pelicans should look towards, understanding what their style is and, finding players that fit that style.
Chaz, you mentioned Bobby Portis from Milwaukee. Do you know his contract off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think going into next year is $11 million. I think after that's like $13 million. Now I think there's a player option after that.
I was going to say there's another guy on that team that I think is interesting. He's got 1 year left in Grayson Allen. Do you think he could be possibly a target?
You know what? I think you really want to look at everything in totality moving forward. I think it's a lot less about players and skill sets. And with the Pelicans, it's a lot more about contracts, because this team really, as it currently stands, regardless of the player, only has 2 avenues to getting better. Even with those Milwaukee picks and those Lakers picks, the Pelicans don't have the salary to really go out and get like game-changing players. So with a guy like Grayson Allen, I'm not sure what his contract is. If it's under
1 year
like
left. 1 year, $10 million.
1 year, $10 million. I mean, they got him. It probably would be somewhat valuable because it's an expiring contract. But does he like fit a need necessarily versus a guy like Doug McDermott, whose extension would probably be cheaper, and he's at $13 million. I think I really think it's more about contracts right now, because what you want to do, you want to set yourself up for the deadline to where you can make that real game-changing move. I don't think a lot of those guys necessarily move the needle. I don't think Grayson Allen really does anything. I think you need like marksman shooting out there with Trey Murphy. You need like serious locker room guys, playoff tested guys who have a history of being healthy. And that's why I really like Bobby Portis, even coming off the bench, maybe even closing with a guy like Bobby Portis. You're not gonna take no shit in the locker room. And I think more than anything, you really got to get some mid-level contracts on this roster, because as it currently stands, it's either going to be Larry Nance or it's going to be Brandon, or you standing pat, because you just don't have the salary to make a big move.
Anybody want to go off that?
I mean, the truth is very bleak.
It's like you're running. We keep hearing that you're going to run it back. You're going to run it back. I mean, the only two tradable contracts, Ross, are really Larry Nance and Jonas Valanciunas, and we've talked about that a lot now. So you kind of look at the trade market. Do you think that it's something that, I think Griffin alluded to making tweaks instead of major changes? Is that what you're probably going to see here in the offseason?
Yeah, I don't know. Because my heart tells me one thing and my head tells me another. I think they're probably going to make just minor moves. I think they should package all those damn picks up and overhaul. Not overhaul, but bring in a game changer. I mean, Chaz just said it. I think Five just said it, right? There are things that need to happen from an organizational perspective in terms of changing the way we play and with so the different mentality and a style, and that's important. But players matter too. And if you're able to make a big upgrade, one big upgrade, you're seeing it in the playoffs, like can do a lot. One change, like one style of player that's a lot better suited to what you're trying to do, can make your team a lot better. And so I think if that option is out there, like clearly the team is not devoted in any way to Jonas. I don't like. So do what you got to do. I think we've all been critical of some of the draft selections. I think you're hitting a point both with contracts, players, what we have in the developmental league. Like you can only bring in so many players over the next few years anyway. I would like to see us make a real effort to make a big upgrade, but I don't think that's going to happen.
So look, yes, I agree with what Chad said, and I agree with what Ross just said. There is another guy in Milwaukee who's a free agent also. You talk about big game hunting. You talk about a guy with playoff experience, a marksman. He doesn't necessarily have the help to back it up, but Chris Middleton right there too, right? For me, the thing with the picks for Ross, I really don't have faith in the Pelicans drafting. I think we have proven in this regime that we don't draft well. I'm not giving you Zion. He was the first pick.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you Trey. I'm gonna give you Hurt. Jose was undrafted. That was a good find. That was like the Saints situation with undrafted players. They do really well at that, right? But you also got Didi Louzada. I'm not gonna go down the list because you
can go down the list. You got Jackson Hayes, you got Kings Walker.
But look, I do want to say this, and not to cut you off, but like there's this emphasis, and like you guys have gone back and forth on Twitter with like, people will say, well, you can't leave off the good players we've drafted and only talk about the bad. And that's all true, and it's fine. But the issue, like the bigger issue is, even if you hit on a draft pick, does it help you in the playoffs next year or the year after? Like
no,
it don't. Like even good player, even the guys that we hit on, like they're not really moving the needle in terms of like making you win a playoff series in the first round or second round. I mean, they're just not. I mean, yeah, they matter in the regular season, and I'm not saying that bringing in young guys, they matter on the cap sheet, and that's all fine and good. But it feels like if you want to start changing the conversation away from, well, let's get to the playoffs, right? Like let's not be a play-in team, or do you want to change the conversation to how does this team become a legitimate champion, like somebody that you are actually fearful of in the long term of winning championships? Are you doing that? Hitting on, hitting on people in the 15th, 16th pick, or are you doing that by trying to really upgrade at a certain position around Zion and Brandon and CJ? And
I guess this was, did you want to say something, Lee?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just in response to that, like, no, you're right. Look, and I'm going to tell you what I tell the people on Twitter when they tell me that. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna talk about whatever I want to talk about. Like, and this is like I'm literally just telling the truth though. Like, this has not been. No, you're absolutely right though. In your point, I'm just saying that like I think you if you're gonna be a serious organization, yeah, like go big game hunting right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, while it's on the bro, like the what? Listen again. The West was so wide open this year, and I understand you can't make a trade unless people want to be trade partners with you. But I feel like with the picks that you've acquired, well, now that has soured, right? I think that you were in a position to make certain moves that you could have made. Like I would package Dyson up right now, and I'd send him to whoever the hell wants him for a good player.
That's what I guess. Perfect segue into the next topic, Chris. Do you want to see this team actually make a pick this year? And if you do, right, what position, like, does that have to be a top 5, top 10?
No.
Are you ready? Are you just like
No.
ship it off?
No. I think they part of their issue has maybe been having too many players to develop at once. I mean, they haven't shown that ability, as is. So I think that simplifying the process across the board, I mean, that should be what we're looking at. I mean, and listen, bro, we talking about draft picks and and different individuals that can come in. I mean, the ultimate, when we're sitting here a year from now, we are going to be pretty much handcuffed to how many games Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson played. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're going to be talking about. If Brandon Ingram plays more than 49 games, if Zion Williamson plays more than 28, 29 games, maybe we're having a different discussion. Or the conversation has gotten a lot easier and we know that we're moving on from one of them. And now some of these rookies are going to be in a different roles that we're talking about. Young players are going to be traded, draft picks. We can be having a different discussion. But currently, as we know, Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram are going to be Pelicans, CJ McCollum as well, coming into the fall. Therefore, I mean, there's no need to be putting yourself in a situation where you should be developing another rookie. You already have someone that needs, time and developing in Dyson Daniels. What are you going to do with Kyra Lewis? Are you bringing back Jackson Hayes? Trey Murphy still is going to need more work. Herb Jones you have enough young guys in the fold already. Hell, Zion still needs more work. As generational of a talent as he is, you have enough of those problems as is on your team the way you have to figure out. I mean, it has to come, I think, from this conversation changes in regards to your aggression based off of what those two individuals are going to do. And I think CJ McCollum's last press conference put a lot of that stuff into perspective for those that, had any questions about what this team should be focused on going into the offseason.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Because we talked about it a little before we went on air, and now that Chris just kind of talked about the guys that will definitely be here next year, and we just watched the Kings get eliminated. We just watched Memphis get eliminated, and Five, you brought up Griff's comment at the end of the year that 27 or however many teams would trade spots with us. Looking at those two teams specifically, because I found this year like even we talked about them more, and I think it's because early in the year we were all sort of in the same spot until things went sour for us. Would you trade spots with those teams right now in terms of looking at where we are? Are those teams drastically ahead of where we are today? And this, I guess, it's kind of a little bit of a silly question, right? One was a 2 seed, one was a 3, and we didn't make the playoffs. But just taking what our GM said, I mean, are those teams that if you had to right now, hey, we change spots, the whole thing, like y'all take everything we got, we take everything you got. Like, where do you stack up those 3 teams? Where or put them in order?
I won't put them in order, but I'll say Memphis is intriguing because they have a style of play that has warranted them not one playoff berth, but a second one as well.
True.
Now on number 2 seed, and you talk about sustainability. No matter how treacherous it seems over there, no matter how many times Ja plays a basketball game, they still find a way to get to the playoffs. And they lost. Cool. I don't expect every game to go their way, but they have a style of play and they play it that way. And they draft based on that style of play, and they developed based on that style as well. So I want that. I would, okay, yeah, I'd trade places with Memphis. I would. Not to say that, the players on the Pelicans are terrible. No. It's just the way they do things. It seems like they have an idea of who they want to be, and they move towards that. No matter if they win or lose, that's how they move. And they just make adjustments on that. Man, I'm not bringing Dylan Brooks back on the team if I'm Memphis, but everybody else, they seem like they have a role. Look at a guy like Xavier Tillman that, shined, right, without a Steven Adams, right? And Memphis was huge when it came to, getting second chance points, right? And they're without Steven Adams. Darren Jackson has to, take more of the offensive load.
Trey Jones came in and did a great job when Ja went out.
Tyus.
Sorry, Tyus Jones. I'm all about Trey.
You look at those guys. He had what for the probably fifth straight year. He leads the NBA in assist to turnover ratio. But it's the same way that they look for guys that match their style, and they've done really well. So yeah, I want something like that.
Would you trade for Sacramento though?
Yeah. Well, it's too early to tell, right?
Yeah.
But they have a really good core. You got to see a leap out of Sabonis next year because he got outplayed in this series, right? And he was an all-star. Fox is a real star, and Malik is could have been a 6 man of the year. But there's so much opportunity for them. I don't know if I'd trade places in a sense. It's only just 1 year, but they have a really good trajectory. I can see this being duplicated, right?
You're asking me if I'm Memphis, would I trade places with the Pelicans? Like, is that?
No,
I just want to make sure.
No, the other way around. Saying like if you're a Pelicans fan, and you could trade the whole organization, top to bottom, with either of those two teams. Do you do it right here as we sit here today? Picks, players, or coaches, GM, the whole thing, owner, the whole deal.
I mean, for me, Memphis, Sacramento, they seem to have Memphis drafts well. Sacramento seems to be figuring that out. Both teams have a distinct style that is all them. The coaching staff seems to reflect that in the implementation of the game plan. So I mean, also those teams have things like Memphis has the defensive player of the year, right? Sacramento has health for the most part. Memphis has depth. Like actual depth, not looking at a roster saying 1 through 5, like, and you got Garrett Templeton right there. No disrespect, bro. I'm just keeping it real. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like they have actual depth on the team that if somebody has to sit, Xavier Tillman comes out of nowhere. Tyus comes out of nowhere.
Kenny Lofton scored 40 points in a game in an NBA game. In the NBA game.
And I think I want to say at some point in the playoffs they said Keegan Murray, I believe, was the only rookie getting like any time for any team.
Yeah.
I may be like slightly off, but I think he's definitely the only rookie starter. But I want to say he might have been the only rookie like getting any meaningful minutes whatsoever for any playoff team.
Yeah. Can I just add to one point though? Chris was like very eloquently saying something, and it made me just like, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but it just really made me feel like we were in hell. Like Chris was like, man, if Zion doesn't play 28 games, if Brandon doesn't play 40-something, like, bro, do you see what we asking for?
Those are low numbers. Those are low numbers.
God, damn, man, like.
Chaz, go ahead.
What? I don't know what the question is.
The short form is rank those three teams. I mean, I have a very, very good. I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say, but just do it for us anyway. Rank those three.
I think the idea of the Pelicans' top two players is better than those other teams. The idea of Zion alone is probably better than what those other two teams have, but it's just an idea. It's not, it's not necessarily tangible right now. I think if I had to choose, I probably would take Sacramento over the Pelicans just because you got a guy like Keegan Murray who's already kind of ahead of where Trey was at that point in his rookie career. Got Malik Monk, got Sabonis, who is like an all-star. De'Aaron Fox probably should have been like MVP candidate. You got the coach of the year. It like to Five's point, it is only 1 year, but just the sum of their parts, and they still got salary. They still got things they could do. They're still in California. You know what I'm saying? The Kings never really had an issue getting free agents because they're in California. Like, you know, they've always kind of got the meeting at least. So with the Pelicans, it's kind of like, you know, again, they don't have many avenues to improve. Like when you spoke about the draft pick, I think you almost have to make that pick this year now because, like, you need salary. Like,
what are you gonna do with like EJ Liddell? Like, I guess you probably lose Billy and
the Pelicans
just have so many.
Well, the Pelicans got to clear a couple of roster spots, right? I'm sure. I think Najee's probably gone. I think Kyra's gone. Temple probably gone. Like, and you need these players to be gone because again, that's how you get the roster spots you need to even sign EJ Liddell to a real contract. Now he might just stay on a two-way and go to Birmingham and kind of work his way back, but you still need another point guard. Still need another shooter. You still need another big, and you probably need two bigs. So like you're in a tricky position to where you have to kind of start trimming the fat of this team. And you could do that with these Built bars, by the way. Trimming the fat of this team and you know, kind of bringing in some actual, you know, like players who they're gonna play, and you got to set yourself up to make that big move at the deadline. I'm talking about, bro, you really don't have to use any draft capital you ain't even in position to use no draft capital this offseason. Even if you saw somebody you really liked for $15 million, I guess you attach a couple picks to JV. But who is that guy? Who do you really like out there for $15 million? I think the big move is shitty, but the big move has to come at the deadline when you got a bunch of mid-level contracts that you can move, and somebody gonna get this runner for like $30 million. Yo, I did this. The Pelicans can get to like $30 million. The Pelicans can get to over $20 million, like easily. And if they decide to add Larry Nance to that, they can get to about $31 million. Like easily. If they just hit a couple singles and wait to the deadline to make that major move. And it's so shitty because you're like, damn, is Brandon and Zion going to even still be around at the deadline? Will the deadline even matter? Like by the time, you know, fucking around with these two. So it's like, I don't know, but I think you got to make that pick. I think you got to make it now.
Yeah, I didn't think you were go there. I didn't think you have to make that pick, but I mean,
you know, the quick go back for me, because we spending so much time talking about those two teams, it just dawned on me that in a lot of ways it's two separate things. Or at least when I think about the Kings and Memphis, you know, like Five said, Memphis has kind of done it ground up, I think, you know, in terms of drafting guys that fit what they want to do and being able to kind of plug and play and implement. And whether it's first unit, second unit, it's developmental guys, like they've done a good job of building something sustainable. And the Kings did something this year that I feel like the Pelicans and Hornets never do or have done. And that's work on the periphery and be able to bring in a guy like Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, who both of those dudes in the last couple, Huerter had kind of soured in Atlanta. Like they weren't just infatuated with him. He was losing minutes to some guys. Like they weren't in love with him anymore. And Malik Monk was cast off from a terrible team. And then, you know, they take two guys like that, immediately implement what they want to do, put them in the right system, and you watch them flourish this year. And that's like, it feels like we've struggled to take something in the offseason, you know, spare parts that maybe nobody else wanted anymore, but still had value, and have been able to put them in a position for long-term success. And it's like, I would love to see us do one of those two things. If you like being able to get a mid-level, low-level free agent, maybe a guy that didn't play well somewhere, but finding value and then being able to get him in here and having success, like, feels like an avenue to improve.
If I ask this question, what player you know that has like this organization has lifted that player to another level? Like what player has came in, you didn't see much out of, and he just was like, they did this. This organization did this too.
I guess it's too early to say Trey Murphy, but
Probably.
You're talking about a free agent, though. He was a
oh,
college.
you're talking about free
You're
agent.
talking about somebody that was
Free
somewhere
agent.
else.
So we don't ever
came here.
really. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Free agent.
go over our free agent signings on that.
Maybe.
I would even look at it like rookies, like because what Herb was doing at Alabama, I saw this transitioning to not maybe first round, but even when I look at something like that, I'm like, okay, what talent you took and you raised it to
Man, three guys like jump out to me as the total opposite of like what you're saying.
Yeah,
or at least two.
and that's the problem.
Yeah, two, like Solomon Hill, who was a
He
guy
was on my list.
that was in Indy, and like he was not like when we got him, he was not just like I mean, yeah, he ended up being trash, but we contributed to him going from like a somewhat intriguing, possibly player to trash, and then Trevor Ariza. Like Ariza was an interest, and you're going back a long ways for at least for both of those guys. But I mean, we could list off a lot of wings that fall into a similar-ish
But
category.
that's what I'm saying. You look at a team like Memphis, you look at a team like Sacramento, they raise guys, they've risen guys' level to, when we sent Steven Adams to over there, what happened? Like him and Ja had like this ultra connection. It's not like he wasn't screening well when he was in New Orleans. No, they just used him in a way that was indicative of them winning. Like I just don't get it. I don't get why you.
What do you blame that on then? What do you think the problem is?
I don't want to keep saying the same old thing. Like I know it. Like it's organizationally, they don't have a scheme. They don't know what they want to be, and they don't stick to it long enough to see it through.
I think it's been a couple guys, but they like real low ceiling guys. Like I thought, was it James Ellis? Ennis? Yeah, I thought Ennis came here, played pretty well. I wanted to keep him, but he ended up going to Detroit during that Solomon Hill year where they was just giving out money. Guy like Tim Frazier, like maybe Ish Schmidt, like real low ceiling guys who kind of like Brian Roberts. Guys who kind of like came here and they kind of like found their footing in the league before going somewhere else. And like, they kind of like fizzled out of the league like real quickly. Like even Najee to a certain extent, but it's like, it's guys who kind of already know how to play and you have such low expectations of them that anything they do is going to look impressive. Like if Kyra played tomorrow and had like 10 points and 2 assists and 3 rebounds, we'll be talking about Kyra possibly winning most improved player because the bar is so low. Like for him to clear, it's just like, but yeah,
we've talked about this though. Like New Orleans just isn't a free agent destination. And I don't think you're ever going to change that. And so
you couldn't get like a Malik Monk. I think a guy like Corey Joseph is an option, but anybody, they go, man, you got to throw a lot of money that you don't have right now at guys. And even then they probably going to turn you down. Like, it got to be like a weird, like a kind of really eclectic guy. I think we almost had a meeting with Harrison Barnes one time, but he ended up going to Dallas. That was the year we signed like Tariq Evans and all them dudes. But it's like you got to be a distressed, damaged asset to come here, and that's why I'm just like, just hit a couple singles and wait. Yeah, distressed and damaged asset. Like if you got options, you probably not coming here.
Do y'all like Kobe White?
He always hurt.
Yeah,
he'll fit right in.
I mean, I don't think the team needs like any more projects. I think I've been like, they don't need anything. They need to like, as I've said, like, okay, they haven't risen anybody's play level. Like they don't need that anymore. They don't need nobody. They need to like nurture. They've just shown the inability to do that. Right. So if I'm looking at this team, you need somebody that knows how to play already. And then hopefully that player that knows how to play already, rubs off on everybody else to, help them play better, because you're just not going to get it from the organization as a whole. I mean, that's just what we've seen.
It's a pretty bleak podcast right now. Yeah. Like you're just like kind of talking through it. And
because it's a realization, like it's just not there. I don't care. Again, we talked about 42 wins. Like they shouldn't be here. Look at the bad losses. That's the thing that always gets me. The games you should have won and you gave away. The Houston one stands out.
The Lakers one stands out.
Of course. The Orlando one at home that always because you just got beat. You just got stolen. Like that was nothing. You know, you talking about a team in Orlando that didn't really want to win, but they stayed in the game long enough that, you know, Paolo went Paolo, and it's that's the thing that gets me. It's like you gave away games that you didn't need to, and you should have beat teams that you should have, but and nothing was in place for, you know, a stabilization to happen.
You know what does it for me? Watching the playoffs. Like what the realization for me that like we're not there is in watching all of these playoff games.
Yeah.
Even the 1-8s. Like we ain't Miami. We're not an 8 like Miami. Like we're not the Knicks. Like we're not. There's teams that, and again, Chaz made a really good point earlier that on paper you say CJ, Brandon, Zion, and if you're just saying those words and comparing it to you know, Brunson, Randall, Mitchell Robinson, RJ, like if you just say the words of those players, most of the time you're going to say, oh, well, yeah, we're better than it. But that's missing the forest for the trees. And it really became evident, like watching this whole first round of the NBA, that like we don't play that way.
I just want to point this out. You see how like every possession matters in the playoffs? Like everything matters. Rebounds matter. Like
Kevon Looney today.
Like everything matters. Like it's just not the points. And it's not just like the defensive stops. Like, no, everything matters. You know, assignments matter. Who you guard. You see, they were attacking Keegan Murray every time down the court. It was no wasted motion by Steph.
You know what I thought was kind of crazy though, when Jimmy Butler did turn his ankle. I was shocked that Thibodeau didn't attack Butler every single possession. I was shocked. It was like Doris Burke was like losing her mind. I was like, how do you not see that he's the weak link right there?
But that should show you like you've done that throughout the season. This isn't the first time Tibbs has probably done something like that, right? This isn't the first time, and that's what you bring up during the season with these teams. Like, no, you've done this all year, and it's just gonna, you know, amplify it when you get to the playoffs. You might think it's nothing, but no, it is something. When you turn the ball over 20 plus times again, it is something, because that's gonna be who you are. That's going to show up in the time of a playoff.
We talk. One of my favorite quotes is when Nick Saban says, "If you want to be happy about the win, be happy about the win. If you want to be happy about the process, I'm not happy about the process." That's what we've been trying to say this whole time, right? The process is broken, right? 5. Can a healthy Zion and Brandon? Can a healthy Zion and Brandon do something together?
What does that look like? What?
Well, you've seen. It's like you've seen it, but you haven't really seen it because it's understanding Van Gundy. But like we talk about health.
I'm not even trying to be funny.
No, I know, but we talk about health, and we talk about like you're locked in with CJ, and then we'll get Chris here next. You're locked in with CJ, Brandon, and Zion.
Yeah,
like, those are your 3.
I like to hope so. I mean, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't have a lot of. I don't have a lot of confidence in. Bro, Chris just literally said, if he plays 28 games, if he plays 40 games.
How many games do you need from Zion? Realistically, how many games do you need from Zion?
We should change the name of the team to ifs.
Yeah.
But how many games do you need from Zion, honestly?
60, 58 to 60.
I'd say, dog, if he at least played between 50 to 55. Yeah, and that's crazy. I'm asking for that because you're making $200 million. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy that I have to settle for 55 games of basketball from the best player on my team.
If he plays 50 this year, you might be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Can I say this, yo? I think truthfully, we I don't think the playoffs really matter, because it's like the Pelicans need to build a team that's a perennial playoff contender. At this point, the Pelicans are a fringe play-in team, and I'm going to say when healthy, because when I saw everybody healthy, and I mean everybody was healthy, not Brandon was out, not Zion was out, not CJ was out. This team didn't look that good because they played like an antiquated brand of basketball. Zion wasn't being maximized. You know, Larry, came out the gates hot, but it kind of like it slowed down really fast. And I think you really just need to build a team that can get you comfortably to the playoffs. Then you can recognize what your flaws or shortcomings are, and then you kind of maneuver from there. Because like Five say every possession matters in the playoffs. And I'm like, yeah, like more slowed down, every possession matters. I think that's kind of catered more to Brandon's style of play. But in a regular season, when you got to run up and down the court, you got to consistently play defense, you got to consistently rebound, you got to consistently stay on the floor. I don't know nobody on this team that's like, oh yeah, he'll definitely fit. Maybe Trey is like a prime Trey, and Zion are like prime regular season players. CJ, of course, because of history. But everybody else, I'm kind of just like I don't really know. I can't really see you keeping up that level of play for 10 straight games, 12 straight games, 20 straight games. Like, I don't know if that's sustainable, but that's kind of just my perspective on it.
And I've been saying this a lot. This is why like coaching matters a lot. And
a lot of people don't think coaching matters.
Well,
a lot of people.
I don't think they.
How do you not think coaching matters?
A lot.
Like,
there are a lot of people that say coaching does not matter.
That's because we give props to Willie Green for winning Coach of the Month. No, Willie Green ain't shit. He won Coach of the Month. Really, Zion was Coach of the Month. Like, we gonna keep it real. Let's just keep it real. Zion was Coach of the Month. Willie Green reaped the rewards. Giannis and Kyrie getting hurt. Kyrie said it himself. I'm glad he finally said something. Kyrie got hurt. James Harden got hurt. The Suns wasn't shit, and that's why the Bucks won. Mike Budenholzer. Then that coach, Coach Bud didn't win no fucking ring. Giannis and them injuries won a ring. He sucks.
That timeout was wild.
He terrible.
Yeah, like
the non-call.
Yeah, he not good. So the more we keep pacifying Willie, saying, "Oh, well, he kept the guys." No, he didn't. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. He showed up, got his check, and went his ass home. He didn't do nothing. That's why this team at home right now, because he stinks. So coaching, we can't say coach like. We can say coaching matters, so we know better. But when you got guys like Willie Green winning Coach of the Month, when he didn't do nothing, and you can see he ain't win another Coach of the Month.
You really don't think he did anything?
But you know good damn well Willie Green ain't.
I think if he had the keys, I don't know if him or the custodian or whoever unlocked the doors to the gym, he probably got like the keys to open the door and shit. But he didn't do nothing. You see, he ain't win another Coach of the Month. Why he ain't getting no more Coach of the Months? Why he ain't get January? Why he ain't February? There's a lot of months left. Why ain't getting no more Coach of the Month? Because he's not good. So the more we pacify him and say, Willie, we part of the problem. Go ahead.
Nah, I'm just saying, like, coaching really matters, man. You look at the Denver Nuggets game the other night, and they had a segment on Mike Malone, and he had some kind of statement about, this is not how you, and they're up. They were up, and he's saying this. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're really trying to win a championship, this can't happen. And again, they've been up this road. They got a player like an MVP, 2-time MVP in Joker. They have a budding superstar in Jamal Murray. But yeah, no, they play a way that's conducive to their style and their players, and you can see it. The actions they run, the pick and roll between Joker and Murray is elite. Again, even against the Suns that are playing decent basketball. It's just the things that they do. It's just watching basketball, bro. Not necessarily just the playoffs, right? But like the game within the game, and you seeing how they're like attacking certain things, and it's just like, oh, this is beautiful. Like, y'all don't see this. Y'all don't see what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm just out here watching by myself.
You think the Nuggets have a beautiful offense?
But but let me ask though. What happened last year when that Nuggets team didn't have Jamal Murray and they didn't have Michael Porter Jr.
Good point, Chris. That's a good point.
Didn't
they get into the playoffs?
Playoffs, bro. Who cares? Who cares about making the playoffs and missing the first round, bro? You talking about how beautiful something works for a team that's made the second round and that just beat a team in their first game with a chance to make the Eastern Conference Championship, a team that ended up being number one in the West. Good. That's spectacular. Jokic was the MVP of that season as well. It sounds good, but to me, it's not as complicated all the time as we're making it. I think Mike Malone's a good coach. I remember him being a part, being here, right? I'm not taking that away, but I do know this team, even in the playoffs, even with beautiful sets, even with knowing how they wanted to play, even with nice role players, they look different and their results were different when Jamal Murray and / Michael Porter Jr. wasn't available. That's it.
Listen, I'm gonna say this. I thought the Pelicans could have beat this year. They could have beat the Nuggets as an 8 seed. Even with that, even with what I'm saying, I'm just saying when you look at it from that standpoint, like they know who they are. They know what they want to do. The Pelicans just don't know who they are, and they don't know what they want to do on a consistent basis. That's my issue. It's just
And that's a
seeing
lot harder. It's a lot harder to know who you are when you don't know who the hell is playing.
I disagree.
So but hey, all right, that goes back to if that's your thought, Chris, and I think a certain part of me agrees with what you're saying. Does that not even more exacerbate the need to get off of picks and to get off of projects and get in as many quality players? I'm talking about guys that can actually make you better next year as possible. Get as many of those dudes in as possible.
But bro, the debate isn't like that the process is perfect. I'm not saying that the process is even good at this point. We finished many shows talking about that looks broken. That doesn't look right. They don't know what they're doing. But I can guarantee you, regardless, if Zion Williamson plays 29 games next year and Brandon Ingram plays 49 games, we're gonna be sitting here with these same looks on our face, having these same I'm about to cuss with these same discussions. They got to figure it out. Fuck everything else. They have to figure it out. What are we talking about? They have to figure it out. They are number 1 and number 2 on the fucking team. They got to figure the shit out. They play more games. Everybody else going to look a lot better. You change the coach. Sure, the coach can be better. Sure, the staff can be better. The organization can be way better. From the marketing to the social media team, all of it, everything can be fucking better. But if number 1 plays 29 games, okay, if Jokic plays 29 games for the Nuggets and Jamal Murray plays 49, those fuckers are number 12 in the West.
But hey, Chris, but I want to say that because the difference. But here's the difference.
I don't give a fuck how good Mike Malone is as a coach. He gonna be in trouble having the chaz of their fan base saying he's ass, and he might be true regardless. If number 1 plays this amount of games and number 2 plays this amount of games, well, listen, this offseason have to figure the shit out. They figured out and play more. We either A, will have a clear navigation on somebody has to go and this shit is not working, or B, they can figure the shit out and we are having a conversation about possibly a second round or a team that lost in the first round in a tough series.
Listen, I'll just say this. If the Pelicans were fully healthy, they probably not getting past the second round. Still. I believe that. So that's my issue. My issue isn't okay just getting to the playoffs. I just don't think this team could win a championship the way that they were playing. The way, even with Zion fully healthy, I don't think they could have won a playoff, like go deep into a playoff or be in the Western Conference Finals playing the way they play. That's my issue. What they're doing isn't conducive to their roster. That's a problem. They should change exactly what a whole 180. Please change exactly what you're doing to something else because it's not working or it won't work. I don't believe it will work.
Chris, do you think with a healthy Brandon and Zion together, they would have won a playoff series?
If they play Golden State, probably not. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Depending on the matchup, yeah, I give them a shot. Could they have beaten the Clippers? Yeah. Could they have beaten the Suns? Probably not. I think the matchup matters. If they would have played Golden State, they would have lost the same way the Kings did. The Kings did everything right from a procedural standpoint. Okay, Mike Brown pulled out. He did everything that he could do. Sabonis and Fox was available. So Fox broke his finger or dislocated it. Came back, was tough, did everything. It didn't matter because generational talent, a shooter, one of the best players of all time, along with other generational, another greatest shooter of all time and some other good associated parts and solid coach and a Hall of Fame coach, worked out. They lost. So, I mean, if the Pelicans were in the same situation, even with a healthy Zion and BI, I mean, I could see it going in the same way, losing in 7 games. Golden State, sure. Different matchup, maybe different topic.
I think that's the I agree with what Chris is saying because, like, for me, like when Justin is asking me, like, what do we do next season or like this, it's all based on health. Like I can't answer the question if 1 in 14 are gonna be 20 games and 30 games. Like I have no way to tell you how to even plan that out. Like and to be honest, man, I feel bad for Willie Green on some shit because it's like it's just injuries are unfortunate, right? But like consecutively, every season going into the season, you playing well, and then the shit falls apart because somebody's body can't hold up to whatever it is. And again, that's unfortunate. I'm not blaming them for it necessarily, but like, I don't know how you build around that. I don't know how you build around that. I don't know how you plan for it, and I don't know how you move forward.
Well, but there is a path like that, and that's why I guess we're talking in circles, because what we're trying to at least debate is what is that path look like to building something sustainable around two dudes that miss a lot of games. Like at this point, like
there is no path.
No, there's a path to the playoffs with those two dudes being.
But guess what? Clippers fans are having the same subject.
It's not like the organization can't just sit there every offseason and say, if these dudes are healthy, X, Y, and Z can happen. We all know that to be true.
Bring a Clippers fan up here and have this discussion. They gonna tell you the same thing. When Kawhi and Paul George are not healthy, none of this shit matters. You think they happy? Like you think they want Ty Lue out of the building, brother? Clippers fans want Ty Lue out of the building. If I went down the line and asked y'all, would y'all want Ty Lue here as coaching the Pelicans? A good majority of y'all would say, yeah, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, I think they did everything, right? Let's look at them. They added every other talent that they could possibly fucking add. They added Norman Powell. They added Mason Plumlee. You go down the line. They added Bones Highland. They added every person they could to make up talent-wise for such and such not playing. And guess what? They sitting on the same couch that Lito's sitting on right now.
And Chris, and I guess you're kind of making my point. I'm not saying that we're going to win a title in the absence of those guys. That's obvious. What I'm saying is I think the Clippers actually did a pretty damn good job because Paul George barely played and they still made the playoffs. And it took Kawhi Leonard getting hurt in game 5 of a playoff series for them to lose a first round series. Like it literally took almost everything going wrong for them to not win a first round playoff series.
Right. That's our perspective from the outside though, Ross. You know, the perspective from the outside of when it comes to the Pelicans are, man, they did such a good job without Zion and Brandon coming in, or without Zion and Brandon, all these guys missing. They're highlighting Trey Murphy, right? They're highlighting Herb Jones. They're highlighting this guy and that guy. That's the outside perspective of it. That's our outside perspective. It's the same way when it comes to the Clippers. But I've talked to some of these people and I see these people online. Clippers fans are saying, okay, we only go as far as number 13. And I forgot what number Kawhi plays because he ain't on the damn floor ever. When those two are on the floor, shit changes.
I think I don't know. I think it's a little nuanced because the Clippers are kind of old as well. Yeah. And it's different because they do have a history of success, and being in LA, they can always get free agents. They got like the super rich owner. They just got more pathways to getting better. Whereas the Pelicans have very limited pathways to getting better. So it's like when you do need to like maximize the things you have in the building. Like the last 2 games, like when you look at those, it's a bit, I guess, I can't even say it's recency bias because it's been a problem all year. When you continue to make the same exact mistakes, it kind of goes beyond, all right, this person's missing. Because at this point, you've had more than enough time to adjust to him missing. It's like, okay, well, he's missing. You got a person that could kind of neutralize some of that, issue. Why don't you just use them? Like, okay, go ahead, put JV out there. Let's he's winning his matchup. Let's maximize that. And when you don't do that, to me, more than anything, that shows like
arrogance.
Yeah, like an arrogance or a lack of a certain like identifying the situation that you're in. Like again, this has been several situations to where you can see it's a top-down issue. Like regardless of, personally, I keep saying this. When I go back to that Atlanta game that went into overtime, when I go back to that Houston game, when I go back to that first Portland game of the season, I didn't think this team was very good when healthy. I just think it's too many players that occupy the same space. I think the Pelicans would have been very match-off dependent getting into the playoffs, but I can't even think about the playoffs really because they haven't even shown me they can be a good regular season team. And I think that bar, even with there was so much parity in the league this year. If you win 40, like I don't give a fuck who's out. You can't lose 10 games in a row like that. Like you just can't do it. And like there was just so much parity in the league this year. Like you could have won at least 45 games, but you don't want to use Trey. You got this thing where you want to sit Trey down. You got this thing where you want to sit JV down. You got this thing where you want to, at the post All-Star break, you want to start Jason Richardson and bench Trey. Josh Richardson, pardon me. Jason Richardson, dunk dude for Warriors. Yeah. So you want to start Josh Richardson, you want to sit Trey down. It was just like a lot of things. You sticking with Dyson in the rotation. You don't want to play Kyra. It's like there's a lot of small, minor tweaks that now you might get swept, but you would have at least been in the playoffs versus like you just totally, out of it now. And I think they're gonna rely on that injury thing as an excuse when you really can only do that for so long because you don't have many. Oh, and police coming. Fighting crime is real tiring. Make sure y'all get these built balls. But yeah, so you really only got limited avenues, so you can't really keep using, the injuries as an excuse if you the front office. Even Griff said when they was the number 1 seed, he didn't like how they was playing. So it's like I really,
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like they weren't playing a really great brand of basketball. Like that's really my whole focus of it.
When they were fully healthy.
Even when they were fully healthy.
They wasn't healthy as when they was number 1. No.
Well,
yeah, they wasn't even healthy when they were number 1.
They weren't fully healthy.
Right? I just hate this notion of like, because this goes back forever of like, we don't have, Chaz just said it a lot of times, like we don't have a lot of avenues to get better. And just talking about the Clippers, it's like, but you do in certain ways. Like you really do. And it's not just about drafting. Like go through that team. A lot of guys that we've just spent time talking about, like they traded for Mason Plumlee. They traded for Eric Gordon. They traded for Bones Highland. They traded for Robert Covington a year or two ago. They traded for Norman Powell. These were not guys that were all saying, "Oh man, I want to sign in LA." Now I think maybe Covington signed an extension. Yeah, I think he's probably the only one. But like there are, like you can trade for you can do things to improve your roster that are outside of just signing free agents and just drafting really well. You just have to be willing to do that. I have not seen from this organization that there's a willingness to stick our neck out there and make one of these types of trades. Now, like, I mean, Eric Gordon and Mason Plumlee, those are smaller trades. The Norman Powell one wasn't that small. Like like if you want to go improve your roster in a meaningful way. Now, what Chris is saying is true. Like if Zion doesn't play, we're not going to win shit anyway. Like you're not going to win a title, but you can get into the playoffs without it being a dogfight every time. You can.
But now you're missing Brandon and Zion.
That's what I'm saying. That's how
many games did they miss together? Was it 12, 13?
Umpteen. Who knows? Yeah. Bro, I just want to see good basketball.
Too many.
That's my really. I don't. You're not guaranteed wins. You're not. No matter who's on the court. If Brandon and Zion play, hell, they can lose too. Right, just like when Paul George and Kawhi were playing at the same time, they could lose too. It doesn't just guarantee you wins by being out there. Like everybody wants. Oh, I just want to see good basketball. The winning or losing that all happens, but the way they play angers me.
Can I ask you this? Yeah, did you think it was good basketball last year when we were making that run to the play-in? Did you think that was a good brand of basketball?
Yeah.
Why?
Because their advantage was we're going to play 2 almost 7-footers, and we're going to try to get as many, possessions as possible, shots at the rim as possible, and we're going to play through our best player, which is Brandon Ingram.
And I thought rebounding was an identity last year.
Yeah.
And I think it was lost, Lito, when Zion had come in. Now, do you think, we'll close up with this, do you think that Willie Green's got so many things going on that's hard to focus on one thing, to have an identity? He's worried about Zion being in the lineup. He's worried about Brandon being in the lineup. Could that possibly be a distraction?
For sure. Yes, I think that Willie Green still is not, like, we've not got a way to formulate a plan for Brandon and Zion together. They haven't played long enough for him to even be able to figure out how to do that. And from what I've seen, the games that they have played, it didn't really look like it wasn't the smoothest, but I can't really even blame him for that because hell, they're not available. Like if you don't have the bodies there to implement the game plan, there's really nothing you can do. Like we can plan this shit all we want to, But until those guys are there, I think that when Zion comes back, you get so excited about Zion being back, you go away from the things that you did to make you successful. And it's like having a new toy, right? Like we got this. Like this thing has been working for some time now, but like I got this shiny new toy in my garage now. Like I want to see how this, how this work, or how far will this get me? And I think that's kind of what happened to the team this year. You add Zion to the mix, and you lost. And this is not anybody's fault, because I mean it's Zion Williamson. Like it's 27 points a game, however many rebounds, or just a very dynamic player. So when you add that to the mix, I think you lose sight of other things, unfortunately. And it's hard to say that if those guys only played, I think, 13 or was it 10 games?
Yeah. So
the big three played 10. Yeah, 10. I think it was
10.
Chris, we talk about, we'll wrap it up here, but I think CJ it was a podcast. He said, like, we can't get in a rhythm because we're not practicing, we're not playing, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. That's got to be a distraction to a coaching staff as well, right? Do you think just simple health, as you've been saying, fixes this? Or do you think that it's got to be, and there's got to be some sort of attitude? Because I remember Five talking about Mike Malone, and I was going to kind of cut him up, but I'll let him go. But I was saying Mike Malone, I forget when it was, Five, but he called his team out like 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the year, Chris. Yeah. And he was like, if we're going to play this way, we're going to be losing in the first round, right? And you never really see Willie Green do that in a presser. Chris, do you think that he should start kind of doing that moving forward and holding more people accountable? Do you think that will make maybe a change moving forward? Holding people accountable on a national stage, in my opinion.
Did it work for Stan?
Well, hold up. The way Stan did it, he called them high schoolers. Like you can't say that.
No. You can't do that.
The way Mike Malone did it, Mike Malone was like, "Yo, we can't be doing this. This type of effort is not acceptable."
So wait,
we have to change.
So they could call him out. So he got to call him out, but he can't say what he want to say. That what you said?
All right.
Yo, why that bother you so much? I called you a high school. So what? Like,
I mean, no, you either.
Then do you think that's a player?
You either want to hear this shit or not.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
why would you think it's a player? Well, do you think it's a player problem then?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a mixture, dog. Like, okay, if Willie does it now, like, so they say in leadership, if you're gonna be militant, you got to lead that way out the gate. Because if you wait too long and you're holding hands and and consistently putting a pat on the back over time, when you do come out and you decide to be aggressive with your message, it's not gonna be heard the right way. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're strong enough, it's gonna shock some folks. I think for this team, it gotta come from the locker room. That's just me. I can't, I would.
We've been down this path. I think we've been down this path. There's nobody in the locker room. We've been down this path.
Yeah, so what are we talking about? Like, I would hope it can't hurt. To answer your question, no, it can't hurt. But Willie's message alone is not gonna it's not gonna go anywhere if it's not leading anywhere. And they care about listening to it. So, or if it's not something that's constantly being done, and we're not, you know what I'm saying? So to me, from what we know, from what we've seen, so on and so forth, it got to come from somebody or a group of people in that locker room / people leading by example. I don't know if the coaching staff alone or Willie Green alone is enough for this current group.
Yo, we know Bobby Porter's break jaws. He be eating them Built balls.
Nico, right?
Yeah, ex-Nico. He broke that bearded Eastern European jaw. Nico never the same after that. But
I'm sorry.
No, he had the knuckle residue in his beard. That's why he was trash when he had the beard.
Knuckle residue.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But yo, Justin, I got to push back here, bro. Because
I can't wait for this.
Yo, bro, like, come on, like, yo.
What do you mean?
Check this out. All right, Brandon came back at the end of January. So from the January to April, this team was unable to practice. They couldn't get no breakfast. All the planes was late. They didn't have no hot water at home. All because Zion was out. They couldn't do nothing because Zion was out. They can't. Why they played the game at all? They might as well just punt it all the games because like Zion's hurt. Brandon, just stay home. Don't even worry about it. Yo, come on. The dude did a bad job. Like he did a bad job. Because all right.
Do you think he did a bad job, or as a whole staff they did a bad job?
They did a whole staff, but I mean they ain't all the head coaches. You know, he got a. The staff did a bad job, but I'm using Willie Green as the name, but the staff in entirety did a bad job, right? That's what I'm saying. Like the Zion thing, kind of to Ross's point, it's like, all right, Zion was out, but like, damn, y'all lost 10 games in a row. Brandon was here for some of those games. Then y'all, you came back, you got beat by 40 points by the Lakers. Then, like, it was just a lot of things that went on that was just like, this ain't really got nothing to do with Zion being out. Y'all can't practice because Zion not here. Okay, just adjust. It didn't like they really implemented Zion into the offensive scheme when everyone was healthy. You didn't really see point Zion until BI went out. So, okay, just go back to what you did last year. How come you never went back to what you did last year? Same players here. Yeah. Why you just didn't go back to that? So it's just like, it was just an organizational failure. Credit to the roster. I think Brandon and all them dudes, they round the turn at the end of the year and really did their thing, almost made it, almost counts. But they did their thing, but it was a failure from the top down, and the roster they kept it from going like this totally bottoming out. But yeah, all that practice shit, like nah. It's 14 other professionals on this team. You can get a couple open runs in on Wednesday whenever y'all practice and do that. Like, it is like, I be watching them interviews. Them dudes don't be sweating when they come and talk to the media. Them dudes being playing the Wii, doing weird shit. Them dudes don't be running no sets or nothing. Them dudes being haircut looking fresh. Just be like, yeah, we playing tomorrow. Da, da, da. Like, it just, man, Willie got to step up, bro. I don't care who on the floor next year. Coaching staff got to step up. This should have at least been a 45 win team this year with all the parity they had in the league in the West.
If they have another underperforming year, do you think Willie Green's seat is hot and David Griffin's seat is hot?
I think his shit on fire.
I think Griff's seat would be a little warm. Yeah, like it's hard for me. I'm gonna give Chaz this. I agree to this point, right? Like, Zion is out for sure. You have to have other things that you implement in the game plan. Like you that 10-game losing streak, if you just lose, if you lose 7 of them, you in the playoffs.
Yep.
Right. So like,
it might be a 6 seed.
Yeah, I think you're 6. You're close to a 6 seed.
Yeah.
So like, if you think about it that way, I do think that, like, to your point, right? You see, to both of y'all's point, you see Jonas is still on the roster. You underutilize him the majority of the year when you could have played to your advantages, the same bully ball, 2 7-foot type lineup that you did when Zion was out. Because technically the only player who was missing is Zion, right?
Yeah.
You literally will be going back to the same formula. At that
I guess
point,
you were missing Jose too.
But still,
he didn't get hurt till later in the year, though.
Yeah. I mean,
when did Jose get hurt?
Like late February, early March.
Yeah. But still, like, to Toledo's point, like you had a formula that could have worked. You just went away from it. I don't know if it was like to Jackson's demise. I don't know what the point was but it really, really, really pissed me off, to be honest. In a post-game presser, I think Trey Murphy had, again, like 30-something points. And it was like the second time, like back-to-back nights, he had 30-something points. And there was a question asked and said, like, when y'all decide to, feed Trey, is it like deliberately or just in the flow of the offense? And it was said, like, no, he gets his kind of just through the flow of the offense. And then if we see him hot, then we'll run something for him. That is egregious.
You talking about the best shooter on the team?
The best shooter on the team, and you lack 3-point shooting, and you don't even attempt to get more shots by running plays. That is my issue. That is my issue. I don't think that's like a salvageable. I can't talk.
That was it. Salvageable.
Yeah, that's not a thing you can just run over, bro. You can't gloss over that. And I think people, when they see it, like, they don't run plays for Trey. Cool. No, that's not cool. That's not cool at all.
Who do we run plays for?
CJ McCollum, we ran plays for
We
Brandon
run the
Ingram.
elbow action 30
Yeah.
times a game when Brandon or CJ comes off the little Iverson screen, and then
It's-
go from there.
There's gonna be a lot of people that watch this and they go say hate. They go say a lot of hate. But I think that I think the problem is that you gotta call it how you see it. You gotta be accountable, especially if you're like all of y'all are in positions where y'all are media, right? Like you want somebody to be truthful and honest with you about what you're saying and how you're saying it. And like it's not all sunshine and puppies and shit. Like sometimes you gotta get to the bare bones of the situation in order to come out through the other side. And I think that organizationally, when Griff said we're gonna look at this situation from top to bottom, I think that he was actually saying the same thing that we saying.
We hope
Well
so.
said. Close it off on that. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Sunday show presented by Company Burger, located 4600 Ferret Street. We will see y'all on Wednesday night.